How to be the best version of yourself. My name is Jason Hewlett. I've made a living for over 20 years as a keynote speaker, a professional award-winning entertainer, and I'm even in the Speakers Hall of Fame. Did you know there's such a thing? And so I'm so excited to talk to you, whatever business you're in, whatever you want to do in your life, how to become the best version of yourself. In this video, I may be sharing one of the most controversial things I've ever shared in any video. And so I'm excited to share that with you today. I'm also going to share with you a list of books that you need to buy immediately in order to improve and become the best version of you. So number one, surround yourself with greatness. Yes, I'm talking about the people that you associate with. When I think about surrounding myself with greatness, it doesn't mean that it's just people that I know. It might be what I consume online. When I was a kid, I grew up in the 80s. That means Mr. Rogers. I love Mr. Rogers. He was like my best friend. And so I surrounded myself with people I wanted to become great like, and Mr. Rogers is one of those. Another is a man named Chris Polis. When I first met him, he was in his 70s. I was in my 20s. He was like Yoda to me. But he was somebody I wanted to become like. And then there are associations you can join. Because I'm a speaker, I joined the National Speakers Association. It's got the acronym of NSA. And so when I joined NSA, I surrounded myself with people I wanted to become like, to make myself greater, to become the best version of myself. Who are the people you're surrounding yourself with? What are the associations you could join? Number two, isolate yourself in order to accomplish projects. For example, if you want to get something done, have you ever noticed that when you're working around other people, it can either drive the project or slow it down? If you have people that are helping to contribute, that's awesome. But other times you need to isolate yourself in order to reach your fullest level of greatness. And so this is what I did when I wanted to write a book. I'd been thinking about writing a book, and I had written the introduction about 100,000 times. It took me years to ever sit down and write anything more than the introduction. So what did I have to do? I isolated myself. This was me becoming the best version of myself. I told my family, I'm going up in the mountains in our motorhome, and I'm going to stay there until the book is done. My wife said, how far have you gotten? I said, I've only written the intro. And so my wife said, when are you coming back? I said, when it's done. I made a promise to myself. I'm going to isolate until this project is finished. I went up in the mountains and in 3 days had what some might call a divine download. In other words, I wrote an entire book over 3 days in the mountains. It was a lot of words. It was a great project, but sometimes you need to isolate yourself in order to find your greatness. Number three is know your mission and your life philosophy. Now that's a big one for me to throw at you as number three, right? But it's really not that difficult. In fact, I've created something called the ICM process, which can help you through this. Here's what it is. You just go to jasonhewlett.com/ICM. ICM stands for Identify, Clarify, Magnify. I want you to identify for yourself what you feel your philosophy is. Clarify with others what your mission should be after they know what your philosophy is, and then magnify that promise. If you'll live by identify, clarify, magnify, and create for yourself and establish your philosophy and your mission in life, you will then be on the path to success, to becoming the best version of yourself. So go check out that download, jasonhewlett.com/ICM. And by the way, a link is in the description below. Number four, journal. Are you a journaler? Are you somebody who likes to open the book and start writing? Or maybe you're somebody who likes to put it on your phone or type it into your computer. Journaling is one of the most fascinating, wonderful practices you can do to become the best version of yourself. It's a way to express your vision for yourself, to create your dreams, to set some goals, to make and keep promises. It's also a good place in which to exercise where you think maybe, I'm not sure about this, and then you write it out and you can tear it out and throw it away if you need to. It's a good place for your own personal therapy, to work through some things, to capture your history, to remember what happened today, to see how effective you are every day at what you do. I would recommend highly including that into your morning practice. And there are other videos I talk about developing a daily routine and so forth, which you can subscribe and enjoy later. But I want you to focus and commit to being a journaler. Number 5, pray, meditate, believe in something greater than you. Now, a lot of people don't maybe like to hear that, but for me, that's been a game changer. In other words, I want to believe in something that pushes me, that makes me live better, that makes me realize that I can do more because there's something more to work towards. And so I want to believe in something great. I pray because I want to have faith. I meditate because I want to find the best place and version in myself in order to be the best version of me. But when I put my faith and myself in a position to be somebody who says, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to believe in something greater, it pushes me to a completely different level. And I encourage you to do the same, because not only does it give you confidence, it also humbles you in order to become the best version of yourself. Number 6, read the best books you can find. Consume the best social media you can find. As long as it's uplifting, it's good for you. You know, when it comes to the books that you read, and I hope that you're a reader, because readers are leaders, we've heard that before, but I want you to think about the books that have changed your life, the books that gave you new perspective. I'd like to list a couple for you here, and we're going to keep those in the description as well. But I would like for you to check these out if you haven't heard of them before. As a Man Thinketh, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Positive Thinking, The Greatest Salesman in the World, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Atomic Habits, the Book of Mormon, the Bible, any other scripture that uplifts and challenges you, anything written by John Maxwell, Brené Brown, Seth Godin, Simon Sinek. What I'd like you to do now, if you don't have those books, go check some out on Amazon. And I would love if you would engage with me in the comments, because some of those books you may have never heard of. Some of you'd be surprised I even shared here. But I want you to know those are the books that inspire me. They give me something every single time I open them. They open my eyes. They help me in my leadership. They help me to be my best self. So in the comments, if you will, I'd be thrilled if you'll engage with me and write in there some of the books that have changed your life. And you know what? I just remembered, I forgot one. The Big Leap. Oh, those are good books. Finding the right books in your life that help to establish your philosophy, that help you to live your best self. Type in the comments which ones are yours, the books that have changed your life, because I'm interested in seeing what you have to say as well. This might be the most controversial thing I'll say on a video, and I think it's important to share with you in order to become the best version of yourself. But number 7 is to start a family and keep it. Now, in this day and age, it can be very hard to find somebody to share this life with. But I'll be candid with you. When you are responsible for other people, it pushes you to a completely different level. Now, there are single mothers and others that I appreciate and I admire, and I don't want you to feel I'm not talking to you. I want you to know when you're responsible for somebody, when you have some parentage or stewardship over somebody, when you have a commitment to somebody, that raises your game, that raises your level of leadership in all that you do. One of my dearest friends, she's chosen not to have any children. And I'm so grateful for her friendship. She's taught me so much. She's probably the best auntie I've ever seen in my life. And you know what? When you think about that, that's because she's committed to those people. So the question is, if you don't have the family right now, are you looking? And or if you've decided not to have a family, I want you to think about who you consider are your family. The most important people in your life that can help you, that can push you, that can get you to another level of living your greatness and being your best self. Number 8 is to work in a profession you enjoy and that is respectable. So when I think about that, I think about my dad, John Hewlett. Yes, he started a company called Hewlett Brothers Financial Corporation when I was a kid. He thought I was going to be a life insurance salesman and financial planner just like him. He was one of the most successful in the world, very respected, very accomplished, and I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I've gone into speaking, performing, being on stage. I'm grateful that I went that route. But when you think about for yourself, your career, is it respectable? Is it something that you feel that's pushing you? When my dad left that industry, he went into some other things until he found another industry that he's in. He's now created a product called Cardio Miracle that helps people with their health. I love that. He went from a place of making sure that when somebody passes away that their beneficiaries are taken care of. Now he's doing all he can to keep people around as long as possible with a health product. Is your profession respectable? Are you doing your best within it? And when we do that, that becomes our best self. Play hard, and especially with the people that you love the most. Now, when I was a young dad, meaning many years ago, we had 4 kids in 5 years. Whoa, crazy time, right? A lot of people said, hey, you're going to be exhausted, and I was. But they also said, you're going to want to establish some traditions, some routines, and so forth. And I learned early on that I needed to play hard and be fully present with these kids. If I didn't, time was going by too fast. Now that I look back at those times, they're the best of times. But it was because we bought an RV, a motorhome, the one I just told you about earlier when I wrote that book. We would cram all the kids in the motorhome and drive across the country, back and forth. It was insane. These kids were crazy. They wouldn't sit down. They wouldn't stop screaming, wouldn't stop singing. It was the best of times. But for me, having created for myself and my family something that we could all do together, that we could play hard, that we could have a good time together, that was extremely important in becoming my best self. Now for you, what is it for you that you need to create to become your best self? Finally, number 10, serve others. I served a mission for my church to a place called Brazil. That was a wild experience. I had to learn a new language. I had to teach people something they didn't want to hear. And then I had to try to convince them that it was best for them to do that. That was a fascinating experience, but that was my first real experience in service. 2 full years, I donated that time. I worked my entire life until I was 19 in order to pay for that time. And I'm so grateful I did that. I want you to think about when you've served, when you've been the most fully present in your life, when you've given more of yourself than you even knew you had. I remember when the U.S. military called me in the middle of the Afghanistan war in 2014. They said, we need someone to come perform for the troops. I said, why would you call me? They said, all the celebrities said no. So they asked me. I went and performed for a month for the U.S. troops in the middle of a war. It was amazing. It was one of the great memories of my life. When we serve others, whether it's a mission trip, whether it's in the military, whether it's serving somebody that's your neighbor or serving someone in your home, where do you get the chance to serve? You can create it, but that's how you become the best version of yourself. And so here's a little bonus for you before we wrap up this video. I'd like you to consider for yourself how you have kept promises to yourself. Truly the best way to become the best version of us is by making and keeping those promises to us. When we do that, we can then have confidence that we're going to serve other people. We're going to have confidence that we can be fully present, that we can create great moments for the people we love, that we can have the profession that we want. But when we create for ourselves, keep and make promises, it is something so wonderful. I hope that you'll consider doing that for yourself. One of the best ways I know to give that to you, as far as the instruction of how to better make and keep a promise, is what I shared earlier. If you'll download at jasonhewlett.com/ICM, it's the ICM Process Worksheet. Identifying your promises, clarifying them with the people you trust the most, and then magnifying them. That will be the best way that you can live your best self. and I appreciate you joining me here. I'm Jason Hewlett.